Okay. I'm on YouTube. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you can all hear me. Uh, what do you think, Michelle?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. So I'm very sorry about this morning. It actually seemed to be working really, really well. But then we had a phone call come in and then it absolutely mucked everything up, right?
Yes, we
So,
are live now.
okay, so can you hear me? And were people able to cross over?
I'm going through and putting the new link in right now to everybody.
Okay, bear with us, everybody. We're putting the new link in and then we'll be right back to normal again. Oh, that was such a shame because it was working really, really well. Oh, well. Okay. We're getting some comments coming in anyway.
Yep,
Michelle.
they're starting.
So, good.
I had let everybody know that we were flipping over just to go back to straight YouTube. I just have to put the web page out there for it.
Okay. So, all right, I'm sitting here waiting for Michelle, but really what I can be doing is I can be sitting here and talking
You can
to...
finish telling your story since I didn't hear the end of it.
What was the story?
You were telling about my dad.
Oh, right, so, yeah, so Michelle said, she said, I'm amazed he's reading it because I've never known him ever pick up a book before in my life, except unless it's sort of work related or mechanic related or that sort of thing. So, so then she did ask him yesterday, how are you doing with the book? And he said, well, actually, I've got the CD now in my car and I'm listening to it in the car because he's having to travel back and forth quite a bit. So he said, I'm listening to it now in the car. So it's interesting, really, because I said to Michelle, has he ever shown any interest in this subject before? And she said no. But maybe we've got a convert. What do you think, Michelle? Maybe we've got, maybe he'll be interested from now on.
We will see what happens.
Right, how are we doing there?
I'm working on it.
Okay, so last week on Story Time, I told a fascinating story about when I was in Egypt a while ago, and I was sailing on a felucca. My grandson loves that word. It's spelled F-A-L-U-K-A, I do believe, a felucca. I'm sure it's an Egyptian word, and it's the felucca is like a small, tiny little boat with a single mast in the middle, and a sail, and the mast sort of kind of folds down unless there's lots of wind, and then they sort of like, it's almost like putting it up a little bit like a telescope, and then the sails go up, and then you see these boats, these small boats whizzing up and down the River Nile. It's amazing. But I told the story of when I was there and there was no wind, and no wind means no sails, and no sails means that all you're doing, as we did in that boat, all we were doing was these two young boys who were manning the boat were sort of hauling us along. One had a long pole pushing us, and the other one was hauling along on the side of the boats that were sort of moored at the side of the river, which wasn't good for me. And the story is an example of really how we can use our own power and use our own energy, and that we are never ever, the story actually shows that we are never actually ever powerless. And so it's worth, if you haven't heard the story, you can find it on Facebook. Did you upload it to YouTube as well, Michelle? So you can find it on YouTube and you can find it on Facebook. But story time's amazing, really, because we've told so many different stories, and every time I'm telling a story, it reminds me of yet another story, and then it reminds me of yet another story still. So it's quite interesting, really, how many stories that there have been over the years, and I'm sure there are many that we've forgotten. So if you have had a consultation with me at all ever, even if it was 30 years ago, yes, I am that old, even if it might was only 12 at the time, I'm lying, you know that, don't you? Even if it was a long time ago, even if it was 30 years ago, I'd love to hear the story. And if you'd give me permission, I'd love to start and tell some of your stories of your experiences, perhaps with me, or even if you have a story to tell that had nothing to do with me but has everything to do with the spirit world. We'd love to hear those stories too, and I'd love to be able to tell them if you'll allow me to share your stories with other people. So how are we doing, Michelle?
Carlos is on. Everybody says they can hear you now.
Yay! I'm sorry about that. I think my daughter called in. She knows better, but still, she does it every week. She called in, and somehow
it jacked the sound.
The sound disappeared because it was working in the beginning, wasn't it? The sound was working in the beginning. So
yeah, it was really actually going really well.
So sorry about that, everybody. But here we are back. We still obviously got some work to do with this streaming issue. But it sounded like such a good idea. We could stream everywhere at the same time and reach more people and have more fun. But anyway, Carlos, good morning.
He says, good morning again. I slept little yesterday. I try not to get in contact with my spirit guide. Nothing yet. How can I invite him or her to be present?
Well, you can stop, first of all, Carlos, you've got to stop calling them a spirit guide. Spirit guide is something entirely different. What you're looking to do, hopefully, all of you out there who want to make some kind of connection, what you're looking to do is you're looking to connect with someone who you love and who you know loves you too. That's where you begin. You begin with those that you know, because those people who know you and who love you will connect with your energy. You know, when I'm doing a consultation with somebody, I'm always very keen to stress the importance of the fact that, you know, when I'm talking to you, I'm not necessarily looking at you. I might be looking beyond you. I might be looking somewhere else entirely. I might be seeming to stare at you, but I'm actually not looking at you, in fact. So it's very important for two reasons. First of all, I don't want to be just talking, and then suddenly look up at you and you completely confused by what I'm saying. But the second reason, the most important reason, is that our loved ones in the spirit world will connect with our energy, and they connect because they know us. And this is why it's important to start with people who you know love you, who you know will protect you, and who you can trust. Because you have to have a trust issue. Don't put yourself out there open to the universe and invite anybody in. It's like, would you ever invite a complete stranger to your house for tea? No, you wouldn't. You know, so be sensible and be careful. So you're looking for somebody who you know and who you know you can trust and you know who loves you. That's the first thing. Now, voice vibration is very important. Sound vibration is very important. And so what happens is when those in the spirit world, when they hear your voice, they connect with your vibrational energy, your voice vibration. And this is what happens. So, you know, when mediums are trying to connect with those in the spirit world, sometimes we have a connection that sort of is like this or like this, and what we want is that, like the joining of the vibration, the connecting of the vibration. That's what we're after, that's what we're looking for. And so it's very important that we do this. And every time you speak, or every time someone in the spirit world hears you speak and hears your energy, your voice vibration, and this goes for thoughts as well, because thoughts are living things, so they can hear your thoughts as well. But if you really want a strong connection with them, talk to them, let them connect with your voice vibration. And that way you can get a really clear and a really strong, a really good connection. Okay? Yeah.
Joyce says, yay, I can hear now. YouTube is back. Gina said, my dad is dead, my mom is dead, my sister is dead. Do you have any messages for me, please, and thank you?
Well, okay. What's this lady? Gina. Okay, first of all, if I may correct you a little bit, I know I'm being a bit pedantic here, but I don't believe in death and I don't believe in dying. But I know what you're saying, and it's hard to sort of make yourself clear, isn't it? So, you know, so somebody's dead, we all know what that means. But I am sure they are very much alive. I'm sure they're very well, and I'm sure they're very, very much connecting with you and around you, and just waiting for their opportunity to let you know that they are safe and well, which I can assure you they are. As Gregor is by my side, we didn't even say a good morning to anybody this morning, did we? We just dove in with this thing.
This whole thing has been a weird morning.
But I'm sure that they are safe and well. But darling, I'm sure that they are very much around you and helping you and guiding you. Okay.
The next one is Cheryl is on, and she said whoever was on helping you last week kept asking us for more important questions. We had been talking about pets crossed over.
Who was it? Who was with me last week? It was Chris.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
As far as I am concerned, I didn't know that, but as far as I'm concerned, my love, there are no more important questions than talking about our loved ones, whether they are our pets or our relatives or our children or whoever it is. I think probably what was meant by that is, I don't think that she was probably saying more important. We get lots of hellos and how are yous, and we get a whole ton of those, which of course we love, but when she's asking for perhaps more important questions, perhaps more real questions or more in-depth questions might have been a better phrase.
Maybe quantity, and maybe she was speaking that we needed more quantity of
more
questions.
Quantity of questions, yes. So don't think that we're saying that your questions aren't important. Every question is important. If it's something that you want to ask, then it is something that is important to you. Then it's something that's important to us too. So I think that you may have misunderstood what she was trying to say. I mean, I know Chris, and she's lovely, so she's not dismissing the questions that you're asking. She's just saying, can we have more questions and perhaps less hellos? And we love the hellos as well, though. So don't stop. Just don't stop doing what you're doing. Just do more of it. Yes, Michelle.
Julia is watching us from Holland today.
Hi, Julia.
Sirporn is back. She's been on with us a couple different times.
Okay.
She says, hello from Thailand.
Hi.
I have a few questions. Firstly, can you comment on the current cosmic energy with the eclipse? And could you give me any messages about my job? I've been looking for 7 months.
Well, let's deal with the eclipse first.
Mercury's in retrograde.
What?
Mercury's in retrograde.
How do you know that Mercury's in retrograde?
Because I follow that stuff. Because every time Mercury goes into retrograde, everything goes wonk.
Oh, okay. I just think that the Earth and the energy and the universe and its energy, they are where they are meant to be. And of course, energy, different types of energy, runs through the universe all the time, at any given moment in our time. Sometimes that energy gives us a little bit of a bumpy ride, and sometimes it enables us to have a smooth ride. I think it's exactly where it needs to be. I mean, and so what do I say about it? So go with it. Do not, if we try to stop or to prevent that energy flow, or we get nervous about it, it's kind of like standing in a river trying to push the river the wrong way, and you're never going to do it, and all you're going to do is to get a lot of heartache, a lot of headache, and a lot of physical aches and pains. You cannot push the river. Allow the energy, allow the river to flow its own way, and try if you can to go with the flow, to be yourself, to be the best that you can be, because whatever comes at us with energy and so on, we deal with it. We absolutely deal with it. I had occasion to talk to someone very close to me this morning, why do these awful things keep happening to me? What happens to me? So on and so forth. Why does this and this? And I said to this person, look, I said, if I look back on my life, I can tell you there were times when I was desperate. There were times when I was destitute, and I really mean destitute. I was never quite on the street, but there were threats of being on the street many times. And somehow or another, we survive these things. Somehow or another, we find the strength, or somebody comes along at that one given moment when. Oh, I should tell that story about the post office when I was in the post office. That's another Saturday morning story. Maybe I'll tell it. Why don't I just tell it now? Shall I just tell that story now?
That is up to you. But if you're going to tell it now, I'm not going to put it on the list.
Don't put it on the list then. I'm going to tell this story now. So this young lady wants to know about your job. So I'm going to tell you a brief little story which happened to me in my destitute times when I had no money. I was working in a pub in the village of Melton Mowbray in Lincolnshire. I'm not sure let's say Lincolnshire right now. The landlord was a lecherous, awful human being. He would come up behind me with a beer bottle, and I'm not going to tell you what he used to do with it, and he would try every way that he could. He would withhold my wages. He would, one time I went out into the car park, and because I worked there, it was usually the last car, and I went out, and then there were matches that had been stuffed into my key slot. So that I couldn't get my key in. Luckily, I've got long nails and I was able to pull them out, but he was standing at the doorway because he thought that I would have to go back in to call to get a ride home. Things like this. So, yeah, I know, you're all thinking, did that really happen to you? Worse and worse and worse things happen to me, and worse things will happen to all of us. And some of my stories, my tale, are nothing compared to what happens to a lot of people. And you feel that life is really kicking you to the ground. So this one particular day, I had no money, and I was walking. Got to the top of my driveway. I was going to the post office because I was on what do you call it when you get special money from the government, Social Security or something like that. I was on something like that. It was very little, but it would buy Samantha's food for the days, maybe the next couple of days if I was lucky. And as I got to the top of the street, the postman waved to me. He says, "Oh, hi." He said, "Let me give you this." And it was an electricity bill. So I'm walking down the street, going into the village, and I opened it, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, I have no money to pay it. I'll just have to call them and beg for them to wait. So I go down to the post office, and I'm standing in line at the post office, and I've got my book out with my Social Security because I'm going to collect money for unemployment or whatever it was. And I'm standing there, and let's just say, I can't remember the exact amount like right now, but let's say that the Social Security money was $25, and let's say that my electricity bill was something like $22, $23, right? So I'm standing there and I'm waiting in line, and I hear a voice: "Pay the electricity bill." No. So the line moves up, I get a little bit close to the counter, and I hear the voice again, louder in my ear. We know who it was, don't we? Greg was looking at me here. And I hear the voice again: "Pay your electricity bill." So there's no, because I've got no money, and if I pay the electricity bill, I've got no money for Samantha for food. So it's now my turn to go to the counter, and I put my hand in my bag to take my book out, and inadvertently I take the electricity bill out at the same time, and not realizing it, I shove them through the little glass window. And the woman says to me, "Oh, do you want to?" And I hear the voice again, really loud, really insistent: "Pay your electricity bill." And I watch in horror as the thing goes through the window. The place is crowded. all of my neighbours, everybody there that you could possibly imagine. And the lady behind the counter says to me, oh, you want to pay your electricity bill as well? And my pride would not let me say, no, give it back. So she passed through, back through the counter, something like a couple of pounds, a couple of dollars, whatever it was. And I went home. I walked home. I had no money for food. I, you know, nothing. I mean, literally, believe this or not, Mother Hubbard's cupboard was in fact totally bare. I might have had a couple of fish fingers for Samantha, somehow managed to feed her, but I had no money for anything. And I walked home, and it was about a 20-minute walk back to my house, sobbing, and I mean sobbing, tears streaming down my face because I had nothing to feed my daughter with. And I mean that, nothing. There's a whole other backstory behind that. So I had nothing, right? So what am I going to do? So I go into the house, I put the kettle on, make some tea, and go and sit in a chair. I've still got my coat on at this point, and and tears are streaming down my face. I'm so afraid that, you know, my daughter's going to go hungry. She was 10 years old at the time. And what am I going to do? And anyway, I'm sitting there, and I'm, you know, really feeling sorry for myself, really, really desperate. And all of a sudden a knock comes at the door. So I'm not expecting anybody. So I sort of, you know, do this, try and clean my face up, and go to the front door. And standing at the door are this young couple. And I say, can I help you? And they say, oh, it was a friend of mine, somebody, so-and-so in the village, said that you might be able to help us. And I said, well, you know, and come on in. They sat down on my sofa, and they explained that they'd been kicked out of the mother-in-law's house. They'd got nowhere to live. They didn't know what to do. And they were, did I have a room in my house to let to them? Could they rent a room in my house? So I didn't know what to say. So I said, well, I don't take in, you know, boarders. That's not really what I do. And they were obviously desperate, and she started crying. This girl started to cry. And I said, hold on just a second, you know, certainly, I'm not going to turn anybody away, certainly. I'll help if I can. And the guy says to me, look, he said, I'm willing to pay. And he worked on the oil rigs, and on this story goes. And the upshot of it was that I had this big leather Chesterfield sofa with big square arms. And he takes his wallet out of his pocket, and he says, I'm willing, you know, I can pay a month in advance. And he takes all of these notes out of his wallet, and he puts them on the arm of the sofa. And I'm looking at the money, and I'm looking at this couple, and I'm looking at the money again, and I'm thinking, you know, I was speechless. I would have put them up anyway, not necessarily for a month or 6 or whatever at a time, but I would have certainly given them a bed for the night till they could find somewhere else. And he said, is that all right? He said, I'll pay you a month in advance, and we'll probably want to rent the room for 6 weeks. And I was speechless, and I nodded. I said yes. And we became, and Sherry, if you're listening to this, or if you heard this story, we became such great friends. The 6 weeks turned into something like several months, 6 or 8 months. They were fantastic. They were lovely. And Sherry was absolutely a darling. She was really lovely. And just when you think that life has, you know, just turned its back on you, something happens. So I hope, my little darling, you'll understand. You'll get a job when you're ready to get a job. I promise you it will work out. I promise you, you will not be destitute. Have faith. And it's hard because I talk to people about faith, and I talk to people about, you know, living your faith. It's all very well. You go into a hall of 1,000 people and you say, hands up, all of those of you have faith. And I'm going to say 90% at least put their hand up. You have faith in God, faith in the universe, faith in yourself, whatever it is. You have faith, but it's one thing to have faith and it's another thing to live it on a daily basis, to stay calm and to trust. And it's not easy. I've been exactly where all of you guys have been. I know what it's like to be destitute. I know what it's like to watch my daughter eat and hope that she's going to leave some behind so I can have her leftovers for my dinner. It's tough. Life is not easy, but my goodness, it's a treasure, and we should treasure it. Be happy that we have it, and understand that life is a struggle too, and that's part of our learning and our growing experience. And that's me done with that story. What did you think to that story, Michelle?
I like that story.
Good. And Dean is probably going to tell you, I've read that story.
Actually, Dean did not even say that.
No, but yes, it is. I do think I tell that story. I think in The Eagle and the Rose. But we all go through these tough times, and somehow or another, you see all these old people walking about like me, and somehow you think, oh well, we've not that I've got my pension, actually thinking about it, but we think, you think, oh well, they've got a pension, or they look okay, or they're well fed, or they're wearing nice clothes. If they could tell their stories, every one of them, if they could tell their stories, they'd probably tell times of when they too were destitute, or when they were so desperate because of one thing or another. And people suffer all kinds of loss and sadness and heartache. Unfortunately, that's life. We choose it. We chose to come here, so we choose that life. But if we allow it, if we let it help us, it will teach us that we can learn and we can grow, and that we will somehow we survive. Somehow we survive. Yes.
Okay.
Any comments or questions from that story?
Not from that story yet.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes it takes everybody a little bit to get in there.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a couple.
Okay.
It says yes. Dean says yes. I read that story. And Sharon said, when you're down, there's no way to go but up.
Well, that's right. But here's the thing, Sharon. I always think that, when you you sink down and you get to your lowest point, you are allowed to stay there. You are allowed to wallow. You are allowed to feel sorry for yourself, but only for a short time. You can choose. You can stay where you are and moan and groan and complain about your lot, or at some point be free, moan and groan, complain by all means. But at some point, please stop and get up and get on with life and move forward. And that's what we have to learn. We have to learn the difference between, getting up and moving on, still having a little moan if you want, but getting up and moving on and striving forward, not letting life beat you. You take life by the hands and grab life by the hands. Go for it, Michelle.
Mary has a couple questions. She says, does Grey Eagle have any messages for me? Oh, and do you think that a spirit played with the sound?
No. Oh, you are lovely. No, a spirit did not play with the sound. It's called technology. We just don't know how to do it. We really, really worked hard at doing it, but apparently we now know that if somebody calls in,
shot.
It ruins everything. So what we have to do now is to disable phone calls, incoming phone calls. I don't know how we do that while we're on the air.
We could probably put it on the do not disturb.
So yeah, so what we have to do is disable it so it doesn't ring through. But no, my daughter is the one. She's the one who ruined it this morning, and boy will she get in trouble. She knows she's going to be in trouble, because I spoke to her this morning and I said, do not call me today, I'm doing my show. She knew I was doing it as well, so she's obviously gotten carried away. Yeah.
All right. Carlos said, thank you. I know now why I feel great when I chant my mantras.
Good. Yay. Good.
Nora commented that her mom died when she was a child, and it's been over 40 years.
Oh, Nora.
And that she's tried to reach her, but she can't. Is there any news from her?
Well, first of all, I have to contradict you, Nora, because even though you perhaps don't realise that you're getting through to her, she is there. I'm listening to Gregor as I'm talking to you. You know that, right? Uh, um, and I'm just hearing her say she'll be waiting for you. So I think that when it is you, and you've got, don't worry, got quite a way to go yet, Nora. But I think your mum will be there. But I also think, according to Gregor, she is also your angel, the angel on your shoulder. So please don't think it's been 40 years and maybe she's forgotten you or maybe she's moved on or something, because mothers always stay with their kids, don't they? She'll be right there with you, my darling. I'm so sorry that you've had 40 years without your mum. I would hate to think that Samantha was without her mum. I used to worry before she had Reese. I used to think, I can't go and leave her by herself without anybody. I just couldn't. If I didn't have a choice, I didn't have a choice. But the one thing you want for your children is you want for them to have someone in their life who they can love, who loves them. And Samantha has Reese, which I'm grateful for, but I'm also grateful that I'm around for them, and that Reese has his Mosey, and my daughter has her mummy. They are my darlings. So I'm so sad that you missed out on that, but I promise you she is around, my love. Yeah.
Cheryl said, I was taking a nap and was woken up by a knock on the door.
Okay.
Do loved ones do this, and why?
Yes,
because there was no one in the house who did it.
Yes, they do, just for your attention. You might have been in that half awake, half asleep state, where they're able to sort of connect with you, sort of more easily. But I do have to tell you another story, because the day before yesterday, Michelle and her husband were here, and they were helping me to sort of put a curtain rail up, and this curtain rail is very, very heavy, and I was standing under it and I was holding it like so, and somehow or another, of course I'm sure
it broke in the middle.
Totally, it just snapped in the middle, and the whole thing crashed down on my head, and I literally saw stars. Why am I telling you this right now? I literally saw stars. I think it's because I've still got a headache and you can't see where it was, but boy, did an egg come up on my head, and I know what it was. And so I'm thinking, when Michelle and her husband left, and I was sort of like really out of it, my right eye was starting to close. I'd got all these pains down one side of my face here. They were quite worried, and I just told them, don't worry, because I've got a hard head. But the one thing I kept thinking was, because if you have a concussion, or even a mild concussion of any kind, don't go to sleep, because the tendency is, if you have a mild concussion, that's what you tend to do. And so I lay on, I thought, I'm going to just sit here quietly and read out of my one eye. I'm going to sit here quietly and just read and just chill out for a bit. And then 3.5 hours later, I woke up feeling really sick. But anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but moving on. Just thought you'd all like to know that I had a little accident with my head. Thought I'd share it with you. Keep going. Yeah, it's still painful, I have to say. Keep going. Come on.
Oh, yes, that's going to be one of those days.
Do you see what fun we have in this house? You do, don't you?
Light Switch said that she loves your necklace.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure which one it is. Oh, yes, I know which one it is.
Bob said that he was putting up a curtain rod too, but no egg, but haven't finished the rod installation, so thanks for the warning.
Yeah, well, we had 3 of us, and one of us is 6'4". How on earth that thing fell on my head?
You stuck him in the middle. You went to the end.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah, anyway. Well, there we have it. But it's up now. It is
definitely up now.
We just have another window to do now. All right, keep going.
I don't have any comments right now.
That's it.
That's it.
It's over and done with?
Yep, 11:53.
Pardon?
11:53 and 3 sources of streaming today. Pretty sure I'm about spent.
All right, well, if there are no more questions, what can I say? No more questions, no more comments. Are you really, really sure? Has it been that kind of a morning that I've put you all off?
We have another comment from Kitty.
Have you just tried too hard? Have I made you work too hard? Okay, let's hear what Kitty has to say.
Kitty said that she was waiting for her doctor's appointment and a spirit enveloped her in a hug. It was a woman and that she thinks it was an angel.
Oh, Kitty, when did this happen? Ooh, that sounds wonderful to me.
And Cheryl wants to know, have you guys considered using Zoom?
We do use Zoom.
We use Zoom, but Zoom doesn't stream out to all the other sites live.
We actually do use Zoom. We are going to use Zoom when we do our
Conferences.
Look, do you realize, everybody, that we are not technically minded? I'm totally not technically minded. I've no clue what I'm doing. Poor Michelle is having to figure it all out. What can I tell you? We are doing our very best. Obviously, our best is just not good enough today, but we do hope that you've enjoyed the show, and we do hope that you'll come back and see us again, that we'll not put you right off. We shall keep trying. We are on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. We are going to be doing our story time, and I've got a good one for you this week. They're all good ones. I can say that with confidence because I'm not sure which one I'm going to tell you yet. But you know, we do our. Are we streaming? We're going to be streaming story time as well. We're going to see if we can
fix it. As long as we disable all the phones, yeah.
So here's the thing. This is what we're going to be doing. We are going to be on Facebook. We are going to be on YouTube, and hopefully we're going to be on Twitter as well. I think we made a brief appearance on Twitter this morning.
I have to read you this comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Chris says, "You're the best, and Michelle's ability to pivot is well appreciated." Thanks, Chris.
Is that what you're doing? Pivoting?
I don't know what we're doing today.
You know, I don't think we care anymore either, do we? We don't care if it's working or not working. We hope you're having as good a time as we are. We are going to, I'm definitely going to have the brandy and coke when I leave this show. I very rarely turn to drink. I always turn to spirits, but I very rarely turn to drink. Did you like that?
That was slick.
Anything else coming up, Michelle?
No, I think Cheryl said that we're having too much fun, and she said the only reason why she asked about Zoom is because there's another psychic who uses it for their readings.
Yeah, well, we won't go there so much, but thank you. We do actually use Zoom. We use Zoom for my classes, and we use Zoom for a lot of things actually, and we are going to be using Zoom for our online, what are they called? Conferences. We're hoping to get that sorted out, our first one in October. If you are interested in joining our conferences, unfortunately we do have to charge you. Not an extortionate amount, but still we are going to have to charge for those, and we're having different subjects every conference that we have. It'll be a 2 or 3 hour conference, and we're going to be doing that. And if you're interested in that, please email us rosemary@rosemaryalte.com and let us, we'll put you on the list, and we'll let you know as soon as we have got a firm date. I can see lots of different comments coming up. So anything else before we close?
Well, Kitty said bye Cracklin' Rosie from Neil Diamond.
Oh, I like that.
Suzette said that's funny. Pradisha says, Rosemary, could you kindly tell me if my maternal uncle is doing okay? He passed away last week. He was on our healing list.
Well, thank you for telling us. And I'm asking Gregel, who is, don't worry about him. he's having a little bit of a struggle apparently, sort of coming to terms with all of this, but he's doing fine. Don't worry about him. That's from Gregor to you, my darling.
And then we have Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
Or Carla, sorry.
Carla.
I can't read either, apparently. Carla. Way off from everything.
Carla.
Hello, everyone. Rosemary, I'm Carla. I would like to ask you if you see hunger in next years to come. Like the problem of Billy Gates wanted to vaccine and put chip in people.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, Carla. So if you would like to email us the question and sort of put it a little bit clearer so we can understand it, and we can certainly address that next week for you. So is that it, Michelle?
That's it.
That's it. So if you are interested, story time. I love story time. Story time on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 11 a.m. New York time. And we will definitely be on our main Facebook, and we might be on YouTube, and we might be on Twitter. We're going to have another go at this and see if we can iron out all of the little wrinkles. I'm going to turn my phone off. I think that's what did it. So hopefully we'll get it going up and ready, so you can find me either on YouTube, my main Facebook page, or Twitter at 11 a.m. This coming Saturday morning, where I'm going to tell you another possibly spooky, definitely mysterious, definitely I might tell you the story of the haunted cottage, or I don't know, what might I tell you? Anyway, join us then 11 a.m. In the meantime, thank you for joining us here. Thank you for putting up with us. You've been absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure I would have put up with me unless I had to be here to put up with me. So please, all of you out there, have a very, very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. And hopefully I shall see you on Saturday morning. Bye-bye, everybody. It won't let me close. It won't let me close out. There we are. There we go.